Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Social class and dating. You know what, and I know I've done this before somewhere. I did this somewhere because this is something I've constantly addressed, but not as much as I should have. And that's just a whole issue of how social class affects dating. And I said I was going to do this because, of course, we still get that whole underlying like Pookie and Ray Ray thing, right? But understand something. And a quote I would use from a book called Money Issues in Black Male-Female Relationships by the now ancestor George Sabiro. He said any discussion about, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the quote right in front of me, but any discussion about black male-female relationships that don't take class into consideration is a joke. Social class means everything. And the only other person I'll have to give a shout out to the master teacher BGS when he talks about the octanes both for the men and women, because as much as anything, those are social class designations, right? And you have to take that in consideration. Like when I hear people talking about Pookie and Ray Ray, right? I'm like, well, where you hanging out at to encounter that? And why are you worried about the women who will go for Pookie and Ray Ray, right? People, 90% of men and women stay in their social class when they mate. 90%. Now you get a few women who, if they're attractive enough, they can practice real hypergamy and move up in social class. Right? You can see that. You can see that, but they had to be really attractive. Right? But most, you know what, those hood ratchet chicks, they're going to marry somebody on that level. Like when you talk Pookie and Ray Ray and somebody just hanging out and all of that, I always say, look at the women who deal with them, and they from the same area. They from the same hood. Hell, they probably went to the same school or something. Now somebody will say, well, she's working as a professional while this dude just sitting on the couch. Understand the social class thing, even though on the outward thing she might be more upscale, she's still hood. She's still hood. And the key to anybody is say, okay, where were they when they were in their teenage years? Now, like I said, that's most, not all. You know, you get some people, men and women, who manage to move up. But most people, when they mate, they're going to mate in a certain area. They're going to mate with a certain type of person, regardless of their financial position. Like, I personally know of some women who are mated with professional men, but if you look at them, they're not really doing much. If you look at them, but then if you look at their background, more middle class, more in line with the professional type, right? And in fact, when you look at that social class and dating, particularly in the black community, and if you really, really look at the arguments of many black women, especially about there being a shortage of men, and really increasingly in the white community as well, quiet as kept. I mean, you've had some authors actually address that. The issue is not a shortage of men, but a shortage of men who are educated. That's a class thing. That's a class thing. If women wanted a man, there are plenty of blue-collar men around. There are plenty of them. Indeed, if we focus just on the black community, a significant portion of the men who are making like relatively high salaries, like even though six figures is usually used as a baseline, people have to realize the real threshold is really 50,000. And I know somebody say, "Oh, that's cheap. That's cheap." 75% of the U.S. population wish they made 50,000, right? But I'll say starting there, that's the lowest baseline, and then as you go up, there's a lot of blue collar dudes in there making money, electricians, plumbers, everything. In fact, they're making more money than some of the educated women who are complaining. But that's a social class thing because of the difference in the social class of a white collar professional and a blue collar professional. It doesn't say it's not. It don't have anything to do with actual intelligence. Because I actually know a brother. And I grew up with a brother. He only last time I knew what business he owned, it was a carpet cleaning business, and he could have easily been a professional. His parents were professionals. He could have easily worked in the government or did something, went to law school, anything like that. But he wanted a business where he could control it. Right? Now, intelligence-wise, I mean, this dude was like honor roll throughout high school and college. Right? But somebody might look down on him because they'll say, oh, he's just cleaning carpets or something. And it's just like, no. No. But that's the factor. You know, that is a factor, and we have to take that. We have to think about that. Like, they bringing it back around to like that whole Pookie and Ray Ray thing, right? A lot of women ain't gonna mess with them because they ain't in the same social class, no matter how much they want to go. And I've known plenty of women. I know plenty of professional type of women. They grew up middle class, got an education, everything. They'd rather be alone than deal with certain types of dudes. Because they only want to deal with who's in their social class. Understand something. When people relate, when men and women relate, and I actually did a on-demand video on this, and you can find it if you go to my Vimeo site, vimeo.com/Rom Wills, right? You can find it where I talk about stuff like race, class, religion. Understand, when somebody relates, it's more than just like they look at each other and, the woman think the guy's, fine and whatnot, or the man look at the woman think she got a fat butt. Okay, fine, they got a physical attraction. But then all of a sudden you got to think, okay, relate. How they going to relate? How they going to relate? Did they have a similar upbringing? Do they practice the same religion? Do they have the same political philosophy? All of those things take a toll. All those things are something to consider. And you see it now. And this is something I maintain. I can look at a person and tell you pretty much what social class they're made in. There are some exceptions, because I know some people, they look like one social class, but then if you talk to them, you're like, oh, they're going to mate with this type of person. Because that plays a big deal, because it's relate. Okay, you have some attraction. You might could have sex. Then what? What are y'all going to do for entertainment? Are you that type going to sit and watch Basketball Wives or Love and Hip Hop or any of these reality shows? Or are you that type want to go to like some concert like some piano concert after you ate at a fancy restaurant? Or you want to go see some stage plays or something like that? Think about it. It makes a big deal. And I know a lot of guys come to this channel for a game, quote unquote game. But that's a big thing to consider, who you dealing with. Now, one of the things, like if you get rejected by a woman, right? A lot of times it's just a social class thing. Like I know a lot of guys get mad about the women who go for Pookie and Ray Ray, but the women who go for Pookie and Ray Ray, like I said, in the same social class, they might not be able to deal with somebody who got more upscale taste. Ain't nothing against you. Heck, they might even think you fine. But even though, I mentioned hypergamy, all women don't practice it. A lot of people stay in their comfort zone. A lot of people, men and women, stay in their comfort zone. But it's one of the things is, one of the problems is just in the relationship thing, we don't discuss it. We do not. We don't discuss it. We think everybody wants the same things and everything. Like that's why I don't get into that whole sexual market value thing, right? Because one is based on middle class white male norms. In fact, me and a friend, I knew a guy who was he was an early adopter of PUA when it was still underground, like late 90s, early 2000s and stuff. And he said it's basically geared towards getting like middle class white women, right? Like that's it. But then somebody who might be more, shall we say, lower class, working class, trash, they might have a different perspective on it all. So anyway, that's something. That's just something for today. Anyway, I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.